क्लास 8th NCERT की हिस्ट्री बुक का 3rd चैप्टर जो है उसके क्वेश्चन आंसर हैं यहाँ पे। आप लोग लिखना चाहें तो लिख भी सकते हैं।
Chapter 3 Ruling the Countryside. Page number 37. Let's recall 1. Match the following. Riot village Mahal peasant niche cultivation on riot's lands rioti. Answer riot cultivation on planter's own land peasant Mahal village niche cultivation on planter's own land rioti cultivation on riot's lands.
तो जैसे कि आपने देखा कि ऊपर क्वेश्चन एज इट इज लिखा हुआ है, फिर नीचे उनके आंसर लिखे हुए हैं। नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन देख लेते हैं, fill in the blanks.
Answer riot cultivation on planter's own land peasant Mahal village niche cultivation on planter's own land rioti cultivation on riot's lands. Page number 38-2. Fill in the blanks. A growers of wood in Europe saw blank as a crop which would provide competition to their earnings. B. The demand for indigo increased in the late 18th century Britain because of blank. C. The international demand for indigo was affected by the discovery of blank. D. The Champaran movement was against blank. Answer. A growers of wood in Europe saw indigo as a crop which would provide competition to their earnings. B. The demand for indigo increased in the late 18th century Britain because of the expansion of cotton production as a result of industrialization, which in turn created an enormous demand for cloth dyes. C. The international demand for indigo was affected by the discovery of synthetic dyes. D. The Champaran movement was against indigo planters. Let's discuss 3. Describe the main features of the permanent settlement. Answer. In order to get a stable revenue income, most of the East India Company's officials believed that investment in land had to be encouraged and agriculture had to be improved. This led to introduction of permanent settlement in 1793. Right pointing arrow. By the terms of the settlement, the Rajas and taluqdars were recognized as zamindars. Right pointing arrow. They were asked to collect rent from the peasants and pay revenue to the company. Right pointing arrow. The amount to be paid was fixed permanently. Right pointing arrow. It was felt that this would ensure a regular flow of revenue into the company's coffers and at the same time encourages the zamindars to invest as improving the land. Right pointing arrow. If the zamindars failed to pay the revenue, which they usually did as the fixed revenue was very high, they lost their zamindari. 4. How was the Mahalwari system different from the permanent settlement? Answer. Mahalwari settlement. Permanent settlement. The Mahalwari system, devised by Holt Mackenzie, came into effect in 1822, in the northwestern provinces of the Bengal Presidency. It was devised as an alternative to the permanent settlement. The village headmen were in charge of collecting revenue. The revenue amount was not fixed, and was to be revised periodically. The estimated revenue of each plot within a village was added up to calculate the revenue that each village or mahal had to pay. The permanent settlement was introduced in 1793 by Lord Cornwallis. It was aimed at ensuring stable revenue for the East India Company. The Rajas and taluqdars were in charge of collecting revenue. The revenue amount was fixed and was never to be increased in the future. 5. Give 2 problems which arose with the new Monroe system of fixing revenue. Answer. 2 problems which arose with the new Monroe system of fixing revenue were right pointing arrow. Driven by the desire to increase the income from land, revenue officials fixed too high a revenue demand. Right pointing arrow. Peasants were unable to pay rights, fled the countryside, and villages became deserted in many regions. 6. Why were riots reluctant to grow indigo? Answer. The riots reluctant to grow indigo because, right pointing arrow, the planters paid a very low price for indigo. Right pointing arrow. The riots was not in a position to even recover his cost. Earning a profit was a far-fetched idea. This meant that the riot was always under debt. Right pointing arrow. The planters insisted that the peasants cultivate indigo on the most fertile parts of their land, but the peasants preferred growing rice on the best soils, as after an indigo harvest, the land could not be used for sowing rice. 7. What were the circumstances which led to the eventual collapse of indigo production in Bengal? Answer. The riots began to refuse to grow indigo. They were supported by the village headmen and some zamindars in their fight. The scale of protest was so much that the government had to intervene. The Indigo Commission was set up to inquire into the problems. The commission accepted the faults of the planters and allowed the riots to grow whatever they wished. This led to eventual collapse of indigo production in Bengal.
तो ये आप सबने देख लिए कि पूरे के पूरे एनसीईआरटी के क्वेश्चन आंसर थे जो आप कंप्लीट कर चुके हैं। आई होप कि आपको एक सारे के सारे क्वेश्चन आंसर थोड़े बहुत समझ में आए होंगे अगर आपने चैप्टर पढ़ा होगा। आप अगर एज इट इज़ चैप्टर भी पढ़ना चाहते हो तो एज इट इज़ इंग्लिश में क्योंकि ये बोर्ड बॉक्स होते हैं जो कि यूज कर रही हूँ मैं, तो बहुत ही अच्छे से आप एज इट इज़ अपना पूरा का पूरा लेसन भी पढ़ सकते हो इसी के थ्रू। सो कंटिन्यू विजिट करते रहो एंड अपनी स्टडीज़ को स्मार्ट वे में करने की कोशिश करो। ओके, थैंक यू।